Hi, so let's get started, shall we? First of all, I've got a half of a wooden board here, the type that children and young people use for school projects, etc. It's like a pin board, it's a whiteboard, it's an all sort of board. This is a bin bag, just using half of it. It's a 50-litre bin bag because that's all I have. I've got some clothes pegs too, and I'm going to peg my bin bag as smoothly as I can onto here. You could also, if you haven't got a plastic bin bag, you could use a carrier bag. You could use a plastic carrier bag. You could use some cling film, anything really, as long as it's non-adhesive really. So there we go, that is on there, and that's our foundation. And then I have collected together some lovely napkins, sort of with a spring vibe to them. There we go. So as you may or may not know, your napkin usually has 3 ply. So let's just have a look here, because we want, if it's only got 2, that doesn't matter. We want each of the 3 layers. So I'm just going to take, a little piece of double-sided tape. I'm just going to use that to lift the corner there. And there is my first ply. And for the purpose of this video, that is my white layer. So the white layers are what I'm going to be using now. Then the next layer, for the purpose of this video, I will call a shadow layer. And the reason I call it a shadow layer is because, as you can just see on there, you can just very vaguely see the shadow of the napkin print on the napkin, so you can see the pink there. So we want the napkin is our top layer, the shadow is our middle layer, and then the white is the base layer. Now you may already have lots of whites, shadows, base layers already saved, so you can use those. The white and the shadows off other napkins. They don't have to be the exact ones off your napkin, especially if your napkin is only a 2-ply affair. Now, this is decoupaging with a difference. Now, I always find, let's have a go see here. I can't tear a napkin now. I always find that tearing is the best for a napkin. For decoupage, I can't even say it now, for decoupaging. So tearing the napkin for decoupaging. So we're going to tear it. Your pieces don't have to be the same shape or size, as long as you start to get together a workable little pile. You don't want napkins that are too small. Mind you, you could use them to fill in the bits, I suppose, but you certainly don't want napkins that are too big. So let's start my little workable pile off. Torn napkins are always the best. They just seem to meld together much nicer. It's easy to tear one way and not the other. You could tear it using water if you want to, but I'm happy enough with that. So you've got your little pile going. You'll need to do a few napkins to get a pile big enough to cover your work area. So I am going to cover as much of this as I can with the base layer, which is the white layer of napkin. Now I'm not going to show you how to cover all of this with white napkin, because white napkin on a white bin bag using white Mod Podge will be extremely boring, but what I am going to do is show you how I start off. So I start off in the middle, put some Mod Podge down, and I get my middle piece, which I put carefully, and then starting at the middle, I very, very gently spread that out. Now if I feel my brush drying off, and only you will know that when that's happening, because you'll feel the dryness on your brush, just put a bit more Mod Podge on. Now you can see why I'm not bringing you with me, putting layers of white tissue onto white bin bag. That's 2 pieces on. So as you can see, you can't see very much, but bear with the video because I promise you the end results are pretty stunning. I think so. So go carefully. If you want wrinkles in, that's fine. I suppose that's just more texture, but I'm going carefully round, trying not to get the wrinkles in. Now I am overlapping a little bit, which doesn't matter for me to overlap them. It doesn't matter for the project to overlap them. Never mind for me. It doesn't matter to anybody if you just slightly overlap them, because once it's your top, whoops, the top layer that you need to be careful with. And we're just literally going around and around with pieces of tissue until you've filled up as much of your white working space as you require. And like I say, I'm going to go as big as I can on here. So I'll just put one more piece on. So again, I'm putting the Mod Podge down. I'm looking for the edge, which I can see, of the middle piece. I'm putting my piece on. And yes, it will just very, very slightly overlap. Because what you actually don't want is holes in your finished project. But with putting the 3 layers on, by the time you get to your top layer, you will not have holes in it, because by the time you're on that top layer, you can actually see what you're doing. This is like being in some sort of whiteout. Okay. I mean, if you did use a black bin bag, I suppose you'd be able to see better then. Or a coloured bag, plastic bag. But I just like the cleanliness look of this white bin bag. So there we go. I'm going to leave you at this point. Now when I've done this layer, I'm going to leave it to completely dry. So it may have to go all day or all night or 24 hours. But what I'm certainly not going to do is heat dry it, because 1, this is plastic and this will just shrivel. But 2, I think you get a much better effect by letting it dry naturally. Any decoupage I think looks best dried naturally. So I'll see you in a few, well, it'll be a few minutes to you, but it'll be 12 hours to me minimum. See you in a bit. So this first layer is nice and dry now. I can see a little area that I've missed there, a little area I've missed there. But I've only seen it as my work has dried and the shiny surface of the bin liner has become apparent. Anyway, I will cover that with some white. Oh, I'm just undoing my Mod Podge there. That was trickier than expected. But now I'm covering this whole layer with my second layer, which is the shadow layer, if you remember. So there's one shadow layer. Let's just get another one ready. So taking off the white layer there. There's the white layer, and the next ply down using my sticky back plastic again. Not sticky back plastic, double-sided tape. I think I'm on Blue Peter here. Will help me to peel off from the top ply that shadow layer. There you can see it with the roses on. So I'm now going to start the shadow layer, and this one we should see much easier now, as we've already got one layer, and this time we will have a little tiny bit of colour on it. So let's make ready with the Mod Podge. Just going to cover those two little areas that are just glaring out at me now. I'm going to cover them with some white. I can't believe I didn't see these before. However, when you're in a total whiteout, you're not going to be able to see things. Right, and we'll just paint them down with the Mod Podge. Right, so second layer. Now I think that first layer actually took about 6 hours to dry, so I was quite pleased with that. So now the shadow layer. So we'll just tear these pieces, all ready for use. It does tear much easier when you've got it segmented into cubes. That's that one. And the other shadow layer is here. Okay, let's stick with the cubes. What did this one do on a tear? And I'm going to use exactly the same technique. So I've got my little stack of torn pieces of shadow, and I'm going to pop these on. So I'm going to start again around the middle there. I'm going to pop that first piece down. Oops. Let's pop the first piece down. So as you can see, this one is a little bit easier to see because of that shadow. So all I'm going to do now is just keep working my way around there and building this next layer up. So I hope everyone's had a very nice Christmas, the best that you can. For those who've celebrated Christmas, because obviously I'm aware that not everybody does. We had a lovely Christmas dinner at my daughter's. It was wonderful. First time I've been out for Christmas dinner in a long time, because I'm usually the one cooking it. There we go. Oops. So I'll just keep building that up around that piece. It is important to be gentle because remember, although quite robust, it is still tissue that you're working with. Some more. So remember, if it isn't a very heavy pattern, you may not get that much shadow, but however, there is another shadow piece quite kindly came next in on the pile. There we are. And I'm going to just continue working my way around and around and around until my piece of work is covered. I'm looking forward to making these into journal covers. I'm going to make some little journals, little notebooks, and I'm going to use this as I'm going to cut these into pieces to make as my journal covers once they are, all the layers and the bits and bobs have been completed on it. It's so much easier with this shadow layer, it really is. So much easier to see. When I first did this and I was working on that white layer, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'll never get this done. And mine will never look as beautiful as the one that I saw the one for shown to me on at my sewing group. However, it did. So just keep going around and around. Remember, it doesn't really matter if you overlap, just slightly overlap. Remember, not too many overlaps, because if you overlap too much, then your piece of work will be uneven, and you don't want that. You don't want an unevenness about it. Now let's see where we were there. Right, there we are. I was just feeling for the sticky piece then. Yeah, you don't want an unevenness in your finished product. You want the 3 layers nice and even. So I'm going to leave you again at this point, and I'll finish this, and it definitely will be the morning when I come back to you, because it's almost bedtime now. So I will see you later for the next stage. So as my bottom layer, 2 layers are drying now on my board, I'm preparing my top layer. So I've got my napkins together, and I'm on just the top ply now, and I'm just cutting out pieces. Well, I'm not cutting them, I'm tearing out pieces to put onto that top layer so that I can arrange them in a nice design. So I've already done those. So when I say I'm cutting out, I'm actually cutting out with water. You can tear out, you carefully if you want to do. You can use a pipette to drop water around. I'm using one of these water brushes. I just got these off Amazon in a pack. They're what you can use for watercolour painting, but they're also great for cutting, tearing your napkins. So you literally just squeeze your brush, squeeze the end of your brush, go around the shape that you particularly want, because I don't want any straight edges of these napkins. I want that torn effect, because it looks better. So I'm going all the way around. So as you can see, then it just comes away easily, and I'll just add that onto my pile. That's a pretty piece. Then the same with this. Just go around. I'm doing them now while my work is drying. If you blob water on like I've done there, it doesn't matter, because it will dry. There's my next piece. So delicate, I love them. And you just work your way through the napkins that you've selected, getting together your pieces for your top layer of artwork. Or you could just tear them up and put them on that way as well, with it, you know, so they're on there randomly and not pre-selected. Your pieces are random and not pre-selected. So that's what I've been doing with that one. So I've been tearing off the large pattern. I've done the smaller pattern as well. So I'm collecting those together. So let's have a look at this. This one, this napkin, what we might choose to do with this. So you might choose to do each flower individually, which I think I will. So I'm going to go round each flower and just tear that out of there. Like that. Yeah, let's do another one. This one's on the edge, but it doesn't matter. Just go around there. And I can just come up the side here with my water just to do that torn effect for the, well, not the torn effect, to tear it to give a better decoupage effect. So I just keep my little piles separately. This one I'll go around some of the greenery as well. So I'm literally going to go through that napkin doing exactly the same. And because I've picked 3 napkins, 3 different designs, I'll have 3 separate piles to work with when I start my final construction. That's that one. And then this was my 3rd choice napkin. This is the big one. So I might choose to cut out the butterfly, which I will choose to do. So I'm just doing, that's my son, thanks Johnny, bringing me a nice cup of tea in. There's my butterfly, how pretty is she? And the other one. And now Norma the puppy. What are you doing in there? Norma the puppy is in here now looking for bits and pieces. She's a little Hoover. Those pretty, they look so pretty. Don't they look different than when they're, I mean they're pretty on the napkin, but don't they look so different when you cut them out? My butterflies. Let's have a look at my flowers. What I'm going to do here. So I'm going to take, I'm actually going to take quite a big piece from here. I think I'm going to be running out of water. Go across the bottom, up the side, just to tear those. This is so relaxing to do. That's that one. So I need this one in its own pile. Let's just move these across. Those there, those there. I'm going to put my butterflies separately. And that's that one. I might choose just to do a small one here. Let's cut through the daffodil. And I can't remember what these are called. I've got them in my garden, but I just can't remember what they're called. These, it's not a hyacinth, it's a little, I can't remember what they're called. I do love them though when they come up in spring. That's why I like it. I mean, I enjoy Christmas and New Year, but when they're out of the way, it's so lovely because you've got so much to look forward to with spring coming along. So you can tear out small pieces, you can tear out larger pieces. Let's just tear this now. I don't want to waste anything. Well, not any pictures. There we go. I might break these down into sizes as well. Let's take this. Let's come down there. If you can remember what those are called, please comment, let me know. As soon as you tell me, I'll be like, oh, of course it is. Of course it is. I've got a, like, well, not like it is a Belfast sink. I've got a few in my garden, but I've got one that's full of those. So just go through your napkins and choose how you want to break up your picture. Like I say, you can do it with the water pen. You could use a brush, couldn't you? Just an ordinary paintbrush, dip it in water and go around. You could use a pipette and drop bits around, or you could just tear it. Or if you want to, you could just tear it into, these are some of the white ones, but just tear it into the squares if you want to do that. So that's the next stage. So if you get those all ready for when we do that next layer. Here we are back on the board that we've been working on. My shadow serviettes, napkins have dried. You can see them there. And I've sorted out some piles of napkin that I've chosen to use. So the job now is to cover the napkin, cover the 2 layers that we've already done, the base layer of white napkin, the layer of shadow, and now we're going to put the picture on top. Now this is where you need to decide what you're going to use this for. There's so many uses. If you were going to make a journal cover, then you would measure the size of your journal cover, maybe draw that rectangle onto this base, and then work your napkin design within that, so that you get the design that you want for the front of your journal. Now I am making tiny notebooks from toilet paper rolls. And what I'm going to do, therefore, is just randomly decorate the whole of my board. And then add some more layers, as you'll see as we go along. I'm going to do some stitching. I'm going to add some additional embellishments. So you'll see as we go along how I'm going to build this up to make the covers for these little ones. So like I say, if you're doing a bigger journal, you want to like measure out your journal cover size maybe, or you still might want to go random and then fit it to how best suits your journal. You could use this to cover boxes with. I used it to make some needle cases, because when you've done it, it's like it's obviously not fabric, but it is like a fabric like consistency, texture that you can use. So without further ado, let's move on. So I'm just going to have a little tidy up time here, in that I'm just moving these out of the way. I've got my brush. I can put some of these tinies up the top here. These are the bits from in between where I've cut out, so they'll come in useful as well. I've done a few white pieces for just in case I need that cover. So I'm just going to pop these on here, so that I can then pick and choose my design. So mine is going to be random. I still want it to look pretty, but it is going to be random all over, because I'll literally stick my toilet paper covers onto the back of it and then cut it. So it's just going to be random and not a set picture, but you could make a picture if you wanted to, and depending on the napkins. Now this is quite smooth. However, if you're unhappy with the texture and you think, oh, that's a bit lumpy, you can very gently, and I mean gently, because if you sandpaper too hard, you'll go, it's robust, but it's delicate at the same time. You don't want to go through your 2 layers to your bin bag. So let's just gently rub over. There we go. Very, very gently. I'll just get my big brush. I have this huge brush that I really use for waxing. I'm actually thinking of waxing. When I finish my layers, I'm thinking of waxing. Right, there we go. Brush off any debris. A little bit sticking up like that you can take off, or you can just glue over the top of them. There we go. Right. Whoop. Throwing my brushes around the room now. Right, so now I've got my Mod Podge and I'm going to pour it into this cup. There we go. Just shut that and move it. Right, so where shall I start? As you can see, if I start at the bottom, can't you? So I will start with some floral pieces at the bottom. So I'm just spreading my Mod Podge on the area where I'm going to start. Getting it all nice and juicy to work on. And then I'm going to start to add these lovely napkins over the top. Just like that. Lovely. Now here I've got a little bit of a raw edge, as it were, so I'm just going to put some of that around. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle, I suppose, but not knowing the picture until you finish the piece of work. Let's just move the peg. There we go. That's pretty. If it anywhere looks thick, just take it off. Right. I'm going to take one of these roses now. I haven't, not torn down the edge of that one. Let's just tear it down. The juicier the better, I think. And then we put bring the layers up together, and there we go, there's our next one. So now I need something at the bottom here. So I'm going to put one of these little daffodils just here, just there. So I'm just filling in all the spaces as I go along. And here, I think it would look nice again with one of these sort of random pieces. There we go. This is my favourite part of the whole process, is building up this beautiful, beautiful picture. Oh, what shall we do next? We'll put some more of these spring flowers on, these daffodils. Take them so it just overlaps there. And this is the beauty of this layer, you can actually see it. These serviettes are absolutely gorgeous, aren't they? Let's bring you up here now, because I'm not going to do the whole page, because you would get very fed up and you'd be leaving me and not subscribing to my channel. So please leave me your comments if you think of anything else this can be used, this technique can be used for. I'm going to put this here. So many things. The only thing you can't really do is apply heat because of the glue. Let's just brush that down. There now, I think one of these roses would go perfectly there. And just take your time and enjoy yourself. I am very, very much in agreement that crafting is meditative, because it is. Once you get into this space and building your picture, you're focusing upon your work and you're not actually thinking or worrying about anything else. You're just sort of getting on with things. Your mind is just focused on what you're doing. So it takes you sort of out of the world, and my goodness, we could all do with that now and again, couldn't we? Just come out of this world. And as you overlap, you can see the napkin underneath does show through. Whoop, I've done that a little bit. There we go. You could always go over the top with distress ink, couldn't you, as well? I was thinking you could use the paste on it, you know, a stencil and some paste. That would look nice as well. And this is what I'm just going to keep doing now. I'm just going to keep building this up and building it up. Now I want this. Oh no, that's the same as that one. Let's put another one of these here. I think that's why when I focus on what I'm doing, you just seem to stop speaking, don't you? Because you're just so into your piece of art. I'm going to stick a little butterfly there. Get that. How pretty does that look just there? I'm loving this. Absolutely loving it. I think it's coming together so nicely. Let's put another one of these, I think, here. Yeah. If it wasn't for my son's watching the TV in the room below me, very, very loudly, some gangster thing, all would be beautiful and peaceful and quiet. If I open the window, I might hear a couple of birds singing, but not really in the winter time. We don't, having 4 cats, we don't really get a lot of birds in our garden, which is sad, but it's also good for the birds not to be there. That is lovely. And can you see the picture just building up and building up? Right, let's put some, I want to put some daffodils in now. I'm sort of going to put them there. I am putting everything the same way up because I know that one's a little, oh, hold on. I know this one's a little bit crooked, but I don't want to cover that butterfly. There we go. Again, the flower is still showing through because it's only the one ply of the napkin. If you feel there's somewhere that might be missing your third layer, just pop a little bit onto there of your bits and pieces. There we go. I love these colours. I love how it's coming together. So I'm going to leave you at this point and I'm going to finish this. I'm going to let it dry. Then I'll show you what we do next. So see you in a little bit. So it's all dry now. Isn't it lovely? Worth waiting through those layers to get this effect. I'm really, really pleased with it. So next steps, pegs off. And this will just, the bin bag or plastic bag, whatever you've used there, will just come off your board. Like so. Oops. Stuck on it. Just come off like that. Just move the board to the side. There we go. And all you do now, really simply, is you just carefully peel your finished product. That's all the 3 layers off your bin bag. There we go, that's the back and this is the front, and you're left with this wonderful layered decoupaged napkin, which is basically just decoupaged upon itself. That's quite a robust as well. It doesn't tear like a napkin would. So what do you do next? Well, what you do next is entirely up to you, isn't it? I mean, let's just suppose for an instant that this was my journal, this huge dictionary. I could literally just use that now as my journal cover. It would look like that. I could leave it as it is. I could embellish it. I could do whatever I would do really with that. And it's really, really pretty. You could use it on making tags. You could use it for making snippet rolls. You could use it for whatever you want to. You can embellish this further if you wish, which is what I'm going to do. So my plan is, like I said yesterday, is to make tiny journal covers for toilet paper, little tiny toilet paper journals. So I do want to embellish this further, because you're not going to get the full effect of that paper. You're just going to get little sort of oblongs of it. So what I'm going to do now, and I will bring it back once I've done it, is I am going to stitch on the machine. Now, if you don't have a machine, you could hand stitch, because you could quite easily slow stitch onto this. It's actually, it is a piece of textile that you can stitch onto. It doesn't really tear. I'm not going to have a go at tearing it because I don't want to tear it, but you can see how robust it is. So I'm going to put my free sort of wool embroidery needle on my sewing machine. I'm going to cut this in half because that's too big for my sewing machine. I'm going to cut it in half, and then when I have finished stitching it, I'll bring it back and show you what I've done. So yay, exciting. So I'll see you again shortly. So here we are. I've done my stitching on my piece, if you can see that. I've done it in pink. So this is where you take your foot off your sewing machine. Some have foots that just sort of press down, but mine doesn't do that. Mine's a good Singer patchwork, but I have to put this special footer on mine, this one. So I just put that foot on and this over the where the teeth go that move your fabric and paper along. So I put that on, put this on, and then I can self-guide where the stitches want to go. I should have shown you that before. Put that in my box, or else I will lose it. Then I cut my paper in half so that it would fit nicely within my machine, and then I trimmed around the edges. So these are all the bits that I trimmed off. Now these you could sort of patchwork together and make another small journal cover if you're doing small journals, or you can put them, they're so pretty, put them in your scrap box, which I'm going to do right now, ready for doing your snippet rolls. So here it is, stitched around. This is what I chose to do, obviously. It is artist choice. And then I decorated with sequins and some vintage buttons. So I got my vintage button stash. These are not my mother of pearl buttons, they're in a separate tin. So I have this tin with my vintage buttons in. Oh, that's a pretty one. That would have looked nice, wouldn't it? You have to be careful though, if they've got a shank on the back, then they'll stick up too far from your page and might be difficult as a journal when you're writing inside the book. So I got some of my vintage buttons out, here they are, and very lightly glued them on randomly. So these are all vintage buttons, and I got my sequins. Here's my sequin box. Got lots of sequins, and got another. They were all sorted out beautifully, but then I lent them to my mum and they came back like all haphazard. So they do need sorting out. So if I'm in a sorting mood, I'll do that. There's more sequins to put into there. So I put some sequins on too. So these are glued into position how I like them. And then I got some vintage. I do use a lot of vintage things. I particularly like the vintage cottons. I think they're so much better than modern cottons. So I got my cotton and I stitched on my buttons and my sequins. And this is my finished product. Let's just zoom out a little bit. This is my finished product. So it's a little journal. I stitched the buttons on. As you can see, I left the threads. The journal, I've left the threads because I do particularly like threads. So even though I've glued them on, I stitched them on as well to secure. I went around the edge of my journal with blanket stitch on my machine in the same colour that I'd done my free embroidery stitch. And then I have this, it was yellow but I dyed it orange, hug snug, so like a seam binding. I pop that round, then using a purple pin there, bulb pin, I just attached a couple of little vintage dangles on. So if we open it up, I think there's 15 sheets, so that'll make like 60 sides. It doesn't bother me that the pages are overhanging. The threads don't bother me. If whoever gets this journal, because I'm going to be making probably about 10 of them and putting them into my Etsy shop, if whoever gets this journal chooses to, they can cut all those off. So then I lined the book with this vintage paper. So I've been attacking my scrap box, and then I put all these pieces in. and this is some eco-dyed paper. There's all sorts. So these are the sort of things that are in my scrap box that I've just used to make my papers out of. And this is a bit of Amazon packing paper. Good old Amazon. We don't half use their papers and bags and things, don't we? Us journal makers. So should I measure the little journal? Oops, where's it gone? There it is. So should I measure the little journal for you? I think I will. Then back in the box. Get the ruler. Get the one with some numbers on. Here we go. So this measures obviously the size of a toilet roll. So it's approximately 3 inches by 4 inches, 60 sides of paper, including vintage papers, eco-dyed papers, watercolour paper. So these are from the 1930s. They're order sheets from the 1930s. So I'm going to be making those. So let me know if you do have a go at this technique. And if you do, let me know what you make. I've got a Facebook page, Be Divine Vintage. So if you want to post some pictures of what you make, that would be lovely. I do love seeing what I may inspire other crafters to do. Here I am. So my Instagram now, I've got just over 9,000 followers, is Instagram Be Divine Vintage. So it's Bead and then Divine, just one D. Facebook Be Divine Vintage Journals and Craft, and Etsy Be Divine Vintage. I will put some links below for you. So I hope you enjoyed. Just found some more pieces of paper there. I put them in my pile. So I hope you enjoyed the video of how to create this different method of decoupage. And if you have, please like the video, please comment, that would be wonderful. If you've got any other suggestions of how to use this, what you've used it for, absolutely anything you want to point out, please let me know in comments below, and please subscribe to my channel as well. So thank you very much for watching. I will leave some pictures of this little journal on here too. Thank you.